They laughed when I said no to nights out, new phones, and trips I couldn't afford. Years later, they're still paying off their credit cards, and I'm finally free. They said I was boring. Not to my face, not at first. It started out subtle, little laughs when I passed on a night out, or that raised eyebrow when I ordered water instead of another round. At 23, in a world where most guys I knew were chasing weekends like they were the prize, I made a choice that set me apart without even trying to. I decided not to spend like the rest of them. While they blew through their Friday paychecks by Sunday brunch, I kept mine close. Real close. I would sit there with them at bars, nursing one drink all night, pretending not to notice the sideways glances or the way someone always had to say, "Loosen up. Man, you work too hard." They were not wrong. I did work hard. I still do. But I did not see the point in burning through cash just to feel something for a few hours and wake up broke and hungover, dreading Monday all over again. It all started my second month out of college. I was living in a one-bedroom apartment that barely had enough space for my mattress on the floor and a fold-up desk. I remember sitting there one night after work, staring at the ceiling, and thinking, is this it? I had done everything right. Got the degree. Got the job. I was supposed to feel like I had made it. But instead of freedom, all I saw were chains. Rent, bills, debt, and the pressure to keep up with everyone else like some sick competition none of us signed up for. So I made a rule. 10% of every paycheck went into savings. 5% went to investments. And the rest? That was survival money, groceries, gas, the basics. No new gadgets. No clothes I did not need. And definitely no bottle service at overpriced lounges pretending to be exclusive. My friends laughed, said I would regret missing out, that I was living like a grandpa before I even turned 25. But I did not feel old. I felt awake, like I had stepped out of the fog everyone else was still lost in. What they did not see was what I saw. Every dollar I saved was a brick, not in a wall to hide behind, but in a foundation I was building, slow, steady, unshakable. I did not say much when they teased me. I just smiled, shrugged, and kept stacking bricks. Back then, it was not about proving anything to anyone. I just wanted peace. I wanted freedom. I wanted a life that did not rely on a credit card to keep the lights on. But peace is a quiet thing, and quiet people get overlooked. Until one day, they do not. The teasing got louder before it faded. I remember one night in particular, just after our friend Evan got his bonus check from some commission-heavy sales job. He dragged us all to this rooftop bar downtown. The kind of place where the drinks came in glasses so thin you were afraid to hold them wrong, and everything smelled like cologne and desperation. I went, even though I knew I should not. My gut told me it would be another, let's flex how grown-up we are night. Evan showed up in a new jacket, designer logo flashing like a billboard. Nate had a smartwatch he would not stop tapping. Tyler was on his second phone, one for work, one just for fun. I nursed a single drink and watched the show unfold. They spent the night comparing apps, arguing over crypto, and talking about leasing cars they could barely afford. At one point, someone asked me if I was still driving that beater. I said yeah, because it ran fine, and they all laughed like I had told the best joke of the night. "Man, you're missing out," Nate said, clinking his glass. "We're in our prime, dude. You really gonna spend it clipping coupons?" That one stuck with me. Missing out. The phrase chased me all the way home that night. I sat in my apartment, lights off, laptop open, looking at my bank app. My savings were modest but growing. Investments were inching up, slow but steady. I had no debt, not a dime. Still, I stared at that number for a long time and felt unsure. Was I really just being smart? Or was I, like they said, hiding from life behind a spreadsheet? It is easy to feel confident when no one is watching. But when everyone around you is doing the opposite, laughing while you sit quiet in the corner, the doubt creeps in. Maybe I should buy something nice. Just one thing. A new phone. A trip. A night where I say yes to everything and feel like I belong again. But I didn't. Instead, I printed out my bank statement and taped it to the inside of my closet door. A reminder that I was not building for now. I was building for later. I still had fun, sure. I went hiking, I read books, I cooked instead of ordering out. I found little joys that cost nothing. But to them, fun came with receipts. And soon, I stopped getting the invites altogether. Thought you were too busy saving. Evan once texted after I missed his birthday dinner. That was the last time he invited me out. My circle shrank. The echo chamber got quieter. But in that silence, I started hearing myself more clearly. I was not missing out. I was opting in, just to something different. But at the time, I had no idea how far apart our paths were really going to drift. Because what I did not know was that life was about to get real for all of us, and only one of us would be ready. About a year into this new rhythm of mine, temptation showed up, not in the form of some night out or shiny new toy, but something harder to say no to. Her name was Rachel. We met at the office. She was sharp, loud in the best way, the kind of person who could light up a room without even trying. And she noticed me, really noticed me, not just as the quiet guy who skipped happy hour, but as someone worth knowing. We started talking over lunch breaks, coffee runs. Nothing romantic at first, just easy conversation. But it turned into more before I could stop it. Rachel liked nice things. Her idea of a relaxing weekend was a spa day and bottomless brunch. She drove a leased SUV with heated everything, and she made no apologies for it. She worked hard, she said. She deserved it. I liked that about her, her confidence. But there was something else behind it too, a kind of restlessness, like she was always trying to stay one step ahead of something invisible. The first time she came over to my place, she looked around and said, "This is minimal." Not in a rude way. More like she was trying to understand me. I explained my choices, why I kept things simple, why I saved, why I had not upgraded my couch or bought a new TV. She just nodded, then smiled and said, "As long as you're not one of those guys who turns money saving into a personality." That line stuck with me, because I did not know if I had. Was I so focused on not spending that I had forgotten how to live? The questions kept piling up when Rachel invited me on a weekend getaway for her birthday. She had already booked the room. All I had to do was say yes. It was tempting. The photos of the place were gorgeous. Ocean views, candlelit dinners, the kind of thing I used to think belonged in magazines. And for once, I thought, maybe I should just go. Just live a little. Let the money sit this one out. But then I looked at the printed statement still taped to the inside of my closet door. I ran the numbers. And I said no. I told her I was saving for something long-term, something bigger than a weekend by the sea. Rachel smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. A few weeks later, she started pulling away. A soft fade-out, the kind that happens when someone realizes you are not the same kind of dreamer they are. She wanted fantasy. I was building a foundation. When she finally stopped texting altogether, I sat alone in my apartment and let it sting. Not because I regretted the choice, but because I was starting to realize how lonely the right path could feel. Discipline, I was learning, does not hand out trophies. It does not hug you when people leave. It does not throw parties for every dollar you save. It just keeps you steady. And sometimes, that is all you have. Or at least, that is what I believed. Until I saw what was coming next. It started with Nate. Out of all the guys I used to run with, he was the loudest, the flashiest, the one who swore he would be a millionaire by 30. Always chasing the next big thing. Crypto, real estate, dropshipping. Whatever the flavor of the month was, Nate was all in. I had not heard from him in a while, which was not surprising. Most of the old group had drifted off, swallowed up by their own momentum. But then, out of nowhere, I got a message from him. Just 3 words. "You still saving?" It caught me off guard. I stared at the screen, unsure if it was a joke or a trap. I replied with a simple, "Yeah, why?" He asked to meet. We met at this little diner on the edge of town. Nothing fancy. He had picked the spot, which surprised me. Nate used to mock places like that, said they smelled like retirement homes. But when he walked in, he looked different. Still wearing his usual bomber jacket and flashy sneakers, but there was something in his eyes. Not fear, exactly, more like weariness. Like someone who had been running for too long and finally ran out of road. We sat down. Small talk. Then he hit me with it. He had lost his job 2 months ago. Sales tanked. Company downsized. No warning. He said he had kept up the image at first, still posting pictures, still showing up to places like everything was normal. But the credit cards were maxed, and the savings? Gone. He never really had any. It was all smoke and shine. Now the rent was overdue. The lease on his car was up in 2 weeks. And his parents, who used to be his fallback, had their own mess going on. Health stuff. Medical bills. He looked me in the eye and said, "Man, I never thought it would be me asking for help." I just sat there, heart pounding, not because he needed money, but because this was the moment, the one I had been building for, the one I hoped would never come, but somehow always knew would. Nate, Mr. Live a Little, Mr. Wywello, was now asking how I had done it, how I had stayed afloat. I told him the truth. It started with one choice. And then I made that choice again. And again. Every day. Even when no one noticed. Especially when no one noticed. He nodded, eyes heavy, shoulders slumped like he had finally stopped pretending to be bulletproof. I helped him in my own way. Not with cash, but with something more useful. I showed him how to set up a basic budget. Gave him links to remote gigs. Helped him revise his resume. He was not happy about it at first. Pride is loud when it starts to fall. But eventually, he listened. What hit me the hardest was this. As we were leaving, he turned to me and said, "You were never boring, man. You were just ahead of the rest of us." That line stayed with me. Because if Nate, the guy who once told me I was wasting my 20s, was cracking, then how many more were next? And I did not have to wait long to find out. 1 week after Nate opened up to me, I got a message from Tyler. Now Tyler, he was the polished one. Always dressed sharp, always talking about networking, always had some slick side project going. His Instagram looked like a travel brochure. Palm trees, rooftop bars, infinity pools. He once told me, straight-faced, "If people do not think you are doing better than you are doing it wrong." I figured he was doing fine. Better than fine, honestly. But the message said otherwise. "Hey man, random question. What would you do if your card got declined at a grocery store?" That hit different. Tyler was not the kind of guy to joke about money. Image was everything to him. For him to even ask, that meant something serious had snapped. He called me that night. Said he had lost a big client 2 months ago. Then another. He had been floating everything with credit, assuming the next big deal would land. Except it never did. Now his landlord was threatening eviction. His girlfriend had just moved out, and he was living on canned soup and expired protein powder. The worst part? He said he still owed on the down payment for a trip he never even got to take. Some Bali getaway he had posted about months ago. Turns out the photos were recycled from a friend's trip. He never left the country. I asked him why he never said anything sooner. His voice got quiet. He said, "Because guys like you make us feel like frauds." That one hit me hard. Not because he was wrong, but because deep down, I always felt like I had been walking the same tightrope. The only difference was I kept my balance. I told him the same thing I told Nate. One choice at a time. One habit, one sacrifice, one step in the right direction. But here is where things took a turn I did not expect. He asked to crash with me for a while. Said it would be temporary. Just until he figured things out. I said no. Not because I was being cold. Not because I did not want to help. But because I knew what kind of energy Tyler carried with him. Chaotic, reckless, restless. The kind that floods your quiet life with panic and impulse and pressure to keep up. He took it personally, of course. Said I had changed. That I had let money turn me into some cold robot. But he did not see the whole picture. He did not see the years I sat in silence while people like him lived loud. The years I bit my tongue while they mocked my choices, laughed at my cheap shoes, and called me the old man of the group. He did not see the hours I spent alone in my apartment while they popped champagne over short-term wins. So no, I did not owe him my peace just because his luck ran out. That was the moment I realized something. Discipline does not just protect your bank account. It protects your boundaries. And I had finally learned how to keep both. But the biggest storm was still coming. And this time, it was personal. It was a Sunday afternoon. Quiet. Overcast. I had just finished meal prepping for the week. Chopped vegetables in neat containers, rice cooling on the stove, the hum of the fridge the only sound in the apartment. That was when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I let it go the first time. But it rang again. And then again. Finally, I picked up. A voice I had not heard in years. Evan. I had not spoken to him since that rooftop night. The one where he called me boring and practically laughed me out of the group. I figured we were done after that. And honestly, I never expected to hear from him again. But his voice on the other end was shaky. Slower. Almost like he had been crying. He did not waste time. His business was gone. Some kind of legal trouble, contract violation, he said. His accounts had been frozen. Assets seized. And just like that, the empire he used to brag about over cocktails and high-end cigars had crumbled. He had no money. His girlfriend left. His parents were angry that he had borrowed against their house without telling them. Everything was unraveling. And he wanted to talk. Not about borrowing. Not yet, anyway. Just talk. So I listened. For nearly an hour, Evan opened up in a way I had never heard before. No bravado. No swagger. Just a man with nothing left to prove, because there was nothing left to hold on to. He said something that stuck with me. I used to think you were scared of life, but now I see you were just planning for it. That line hit deep. Not because it felt good to hear. There was no victory in his voice, no praise, no apology. Just honesty and pain. He asked me how I had done it, how I stayed grounded when everyone else took flight. I told him the truth again. I made a decision early on to stop playing the short game. I said no when everyone else said yes. I watched the party from the outside, and yeah, it hurt sometimes. But I built something they could not see, a life that could withstand the crash. There was a long pause. Then he said it. Do you think I could start over? That question right there. That was the twist I never expected. Not because he asked it, but because I realized, for the first time, I was not the one asking it. For years, I had questioned everything. My choices, my silence, my path. But now, the same voices that once called me a coward were asking me for direction. It was not validation. It was not revenge. It was clarity. The tides had turned. Quietly. Without fanfare. Without applause. Just a single call in a quiet apartment on an ordinary Sunday. But something inside me shifted. This was not just about money anymore. This was about power. The power of consistency. Of patience. Of having something no one can take from you. But even I did not see what was about to happen next. Because the next knock at my door, it was not a call. It was family. I had just sat down to eat when the knock came. It was not frantic. Not loud. Just 3 short, quiet taps. I opened the door and froze. It was my brother. I had not seen him in almost 4 years. Not since the fallout. Not since I told him I was done lending money, done covering for his messes, done pretending we were close just because we shared DNA. And yet, there he stood. Same old hoodie. Same tired eyes. Same, I didn't come here to talk, but I will if I have to face. I did not say a word. Just stepped aside. He walked in like it still felt familiar, even though it wasn't. Looked around at my clean little apartment, the neat kitchen, the lined-up shoes by the door. You live good, he said. Not a compliment. Just an observation. I sat back at the table, my food cold now, untouched. He stood for a minute, then finally dropped onto the couch like someone had let the air out of him. I wouldn't be here unless it was serious, he said. I waited. He rubbed his face, took a breath, then told me everything. He had lost his job a while ago. Too proud to tell anyone. Started borrowing money, from friends, from payday loans, from people you do not borrow from unless you are out of options. Then came the gambling, the fast money, and then came the calls. He said they had threatened to show up at our parents' house. Said he had 3 days to pay or things would get ugly. He looked at me and said, I am not asking for a handout. Just a loan. Please. I stared at him. This was the same guy who once told me I was selfish for not co-signing a car loan. The same guy who laughed when I stayed home on New Year's to finish my budget. The same guy who once told me I would never have a real life unless I loosened up. And now he was sitting on my couch, asking for help from the brother he used to mock. I did not say yes, but I did not say no. Instead, I pulled out a piece of paper and wrote something down. Names of 2 local financial counselors, the number for a nonprofit that helps restructure debt, and a note that said, this is where you start if you want to change. He stared at it, then at me. You're not going to just wire it. No, I said, because that would not fix anything. His mouth tightened. He stood up, took a step toward the door, then stopped. You think you're better than me now? I shook my head. No, I just think I made different choices. And now those choices are paying for my peace. He left without another word. I stood at the window and watched him disappear down the street, head low, hands in his pockets. And for a moment, I did feel cold. Not guilty, just heavy. Because saying no to a stranger is easy, but saying no to family, that is where the real test lies. Still, I did not regret it. Because I was not building a fantasy. I was protecting a foundation. And soon, that foundation would be tested like never before. It was a rainy Tuesday when I opened the drawer. I was digging for a charger, nothing serious, just a tangle of cables and junk like any other drawer. But buried under an old notebook and a half-dead flashlight, I found something I had almost forgotten about. A black ledger book. Not digital. Not fancy. Just paper. Old school. I had started it years ago, back when I first made the choice to live differently. I used to log everything in there. Income, savings, side gig money, even coins from the jar by the door. I flipped it open. Page after page of quiet choices. Dates. Dollar amounts. Notes like skipped bar night. Saved $42 or no new shoes. Transferred $60 instead. It was like reading a time capsule of every moment I had said no when others said yes. And then I saw it. A section in the back I barely remembered writing. Why I'm doing this. The words were messier than the rest. Less structured, but they hit me harder than anything else in that book. So I never have to beg. So I can sleep at night. So I am not a burden. So when it all falls apart, I'm still standing. So when someone knocks, I choose, not panic. I stared at that last one for a long time. Because I realized something that night. Something big. Every person who had come back into my life, Nate, Tyler, Evan, even my own brother, they were not the real twist in this story. I had become the man they never expected me to be. The one who did not flinch when the world got ugly. The one who could help, but did not have to. The one who never needed to ask. And the craziest part? I was not rich. Not in the way they used to chase. I did not have a penthouse. I did not wear $1,000 watches or take photos from yachts. But I had something more valuable. I had time. I had calm. I had choice. And now, when people said, "How did you do it?" I had an answer. It was not luck. It was not timing. It was not some secret trick. It was every small decision I made when nobody was watching. Every moment I chose peace over pride. Every dollar I kept when it was easier to spend. And now they were watching. But I was not performing. I was just living. And the ending? It was getting closer. Because one more person was about to knock. And this time, it would change everything. It happened on a Thursday. Same week I found the old ledger. Same week I thought maybe the storm had finally passed. I was getting ready for bed, dishes done, alarms set, lights off, when I heard the knock. Not rushed. Not desperate. Just patient. I opened the door and froze. It was my father. Now, if you knew our history, you would understand why that sentence alone could stop time. We had not spoken in over 6 years. Not since the argument. The one where he told me I was throwing my life away by living like some kind of tight-fisted monk. The one where he said, "Nobody respects a man who hoards pennies." I had not walked away. I had shut the door and locked it from my side of the bloodline. And yet, here he was. Same sharp eyes. Same iron jaw. But older now. Smaller somehow. Like time had whittled him down. He did not speak at first. Just looked around my entryway. At the clean floors, the tidy shelf, the quiet calm of a man who had been building something invisible. Then he said it. "I need help." That was it. No story. No warm-up. No apology. Just 3 words, spoken without pride. I let him in. He sat on the couch, fingers fidgeting. I stayed standing. Part of me still braced for the old version of him. The one who turned advice into insult, who used silence as a weapon. But that version was gone. He told me Mom was sick. The kind of sick that steals years, not days. Their insurance had run dry. Retirement money gone. He had tried to take out a loan, but the bank said no. He said, "I never thought I'd be in this spot. But you were right. About all of it." I said nothing. He looked up at me then, eyes damp but unbroken. "You always knew something I didn't." I called it fear. But it was just discipline. That hit like a gut punch. Because I did not hate him. Not really. I just never felt seen by him. But now he saw. He did not ask for money, not directly. He did not need to. And I did help. Of course I did. But not in a way that would wreck what I built. Not the way they all assumed help should look. I paid the hospital bill outright. Quietly. Anonymously. Through a connection I had made with someone I met years ago at a part-time job I never talked about. One of those strange little moments where patience left a trail that circled back when it mattered. He never knew it came from me. I did not need him to know. Because real preparation is not about revenge. It is about resilience. And in that moment, I realized something. I had already won. Not in a loud, triumphant way, but in a way that felt complete. Like I had finally stepped off a battlefield no one else even knew I had been walking through. And the final piece? It was waiting just ahead. I stood on my balcony that Sunday morning, coffee in hand, watching the lights spill across the quiet street. No messages. No calls. No emergencies. Just stillness. And for the first time in a long time, I let myself feel it. Not the pressure, not the doubt, not the noise that used to chase me like a shadow. Just the calm that comes after the storm has moved on. You know what I realized? There was never a single moment where it all changed. No lottery win. No sudden raise. No magic breakthrough. It was slow. It was boring. It was saying no 10,000 times so that, someday, I could say yes on my terms. Yes to walking away from chaos. Yes to helping without losing myself. Yes to a life that did not need to be loud to be full. One by one, they had all come back. Some with apologies. Some with confusion. A few with nothing but quiet awe. And I never said, I told you so. Because real discipline? It does not scream for recognition. It just waits. And when the dust settles, it stands taller than everything built on ego and impulse. I had nothing to prove anymore. Not to Evan. Not to Tyler. Not to Rachel. Not even to my father. I was not rich by their standards. But I had what most of them had lost and were now scrambling to get back. Freedom. Peace. Control. My fridge was full. My sleep was deep. My inbox was empty. And my future was mine. That is what I had been building all along. Not a bank account. A life. So when people ask me how I did it, I do not give them a checklist. I just say, I stopped living like everything had to happen fast. Then I sip my coffee, and I go on with my day. No spotlight. No stage. Just peace. The kind you earn. One quiet choice at a time.